Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's John Campea, and this is a companion video. You know, every day on the John Campea Show and on Open Mic, we take some time to take live questions from you guys. However, we don't always have time to get around to all those live questions. So what I do is I take all those questions we didn't have time for, and I compile them up for the companion videos. Because I need you guys to know that if you send in a question on one of those shows, it does get answered, even if it doesn't get answered live. So, with that out of the way, let's get things going now with the first question we got to get caught up on, and that comes to us from Joshua Howard, who writes, do you think Disney will make a Star Wars film based on the Old Republic and tell the story of the origins of the Sith and the Jedi? Maybe it's Rian Johnson's trilogy. Well, I mean, do I think eventually we're going to get a Star Wars film set sometime in the Old Republic? Sure, but that's like a thousands of years span. So, I mean, that's a very wide kind of breadth they have there to dive in there and get into that time period if they want. I do not think Rian Johnson's new Star Wars trilogy is going to happen in that time period. I'm not basing that on anything. It's just my own speculation at this point, but I don't think he will. I don't think that's where they're going. As far as getting into the origins of the Sith and the Jedi, my God, I hope not. Like, Hollywood has ruined so many things by over-explaining things that never should have been explained. Demystifying things that were better off when they had a little bit of mystery surrounding them. I don't mind learning a little bit more of the Jedi. I don't mind learning a little bit more about the Sith, but honestly, I don't want a Jedi origin film. I don't want a Sith origin film. It would just be, once again, Hollywood carrying on its long, proud tradition of over-explaining things and demystifying things that shouldn't be demystified and ruining things. I mean, look, it goes back to, like, George Lucas with the midichlorians. My God, was there ever a bigger blow dealt to your inner kid than when George Lucas tried to explain the Force? I mean, Obi-Wan Kenobi had already explained it perfectly. So did Yoda. They explained it without explaining it, and there was still tons of mystery surrounding it. And then we get to The Force Awakens, and it's like, oh, there are these little creatures called midichlorians. They live inside your blood cells, and we can just take a simple blood test and tell how powerful you are in the Force. I mean, it was horrible. And to me, that's kind of the feeling I get about even the notion about them trying to do a movie on the origin of the Jedi and the origin of the Sith. Leave it up, my opinion, leave it alone. And I'm sure there are other people out there that would love to see it, and that's cool if you want to. But since you're asking me, my opinion is, my God, no, please leave it alone. Please leave it alone. Mark Hansen writes, just wondering what your thoughts are on the Mr. Rogers doc, Won't You Be My Neighbor? Love the trailer, seeing it this week. I wanted to go see it tonight. Or I'm recording this on Thursday night to air on Friday morning, but I wanted to go see it on Thursday night. But I want to see it, like Ann and I really want to see it together. Ann's my wife. And Ann, Thursday night is her Dungeons & Dragons group, is when her D&D group plays. So we couldn't go tonight. So I'm definitely going to go this weekend sometime. I have been dying to see this movie. Like, the trailer alone was one of the best movies of the year. You know what I mean? The trailer itself just makes you feel better about humanity. Like, especially in the midst of, like, toxic fandom and all this kind of stuff. I think a movie like this one, Mr. Rogers, is exactly what the world needs. So I am dying to see it. But I haven't seen it yet myself, but I cannot wait. The trailer was fantastic. Unbeatable writes, even as an 8-year-old kid, it confused me, and still now as an adult. Why was Leonard Part 6 ever greenlit? I'll tell you why it was greenlit. Bill Cosby, at the time, was the biggest star in the world. There was no bigger star in the world than Bill Cosby. And how they couldn't find a decent movie for Bill Cosby to be in, or if Bill Cosby himself at the time thought, this movie's fantastic, and he went in, that was a terrible Bill Cosby impersonation. I don't know what the logic behind it is. It is one of the most puzzling things, I think, in the history of Hollywood. How do you have the biggest star in the world at the time, and you make a movie like Leonard Part 6? Like, and you know, I always say, hey, on script, on the page, everybody thinks their movie's great. I can't even fathom how on the page anybody thought Leonard Part 6 was a good idea. Like, so, you, Unbeatable, you and me both, man, we are in the same boat together, out on the ocean of confusion, wondering how the hell did Leonard Part 6 ever get made? I'm with you on that, man. All right, Luna Comics writes, John, how did you get so wise? Did you magic water from the tree? I'm going to assume you mean drink. Did you drink magic water from the tree of knowledge? I think, no, I think it's partially being Canadian and partially being Italian. I think it's the two wisest nationalities in the history of the earth that have come together to form me, the tree of wisdom. I don't know how wise I am. Look, I just try to look, as much as I rant and rave and all that kind of stuff sometimes, I basically try to say, okay, look, forget what the knee-jerk reaction is from everybody on people and just take a step back and try to look at it. And after I take a step back and look at it, sometimes it gets me really worked up and sometimes it doesn't. But at least I try to take a step back and look at things from a different perspective. And sometimes that leads me to better conclusions. Sometimes it still leads me to the wrong conclusions. Yeah, I'm just like anybody else. But I don't think I'm any wiser than anybody else. I just think I just choose to try to look at things a little bit differently. And maybe that gives the false impression that I'm wise, but I'm not all that wise. I'm just a film fan, just like everybody else. I'm just pretty good. What I am pretty good at is just expressing my thoughts. But my thoughts are no better than yours. I'm just pretty good at expressing them. But maybe that creates the illusion of wisdom. So whatever. Maybe it's the glasses. I don't know. Let's see. Chris Parker writes, which is the bigger blow to their respective cinematic universes? A Star Wars movie losing money, or a Justice League movie failing to cross $1 billion? Well, I mean, the whole question, Chris, is a little bit, from both parts, is a little bit of a misnomer. First of all, it wasn't just a Star Wars movie. It was some spin-off that nobody wanted. So you got to keep that in mind. It's not like it was Star Wars Episode 7 lost money. This was a spin-off film that nobody asked for. On top of that, but it's still inconceivable that a movie with the word Star Wars in it would actually lose money, and Solo's going to lose a ton of money. Not just some money, not just pocket change, not getting close. It's going to lose a ton of money. On the other hand as well, Justice League didn't just fail to cross $1 billion. Justice League was the lowest grossing box office film of all the DCEU. The film that should have been your crown jewel. The film that should have been your movie to compete with the Avengers. That's what Justice League was. Suicide Squad wasn't that. Man of Steel wasn't that. Even Wonder Woman wasn't that. Your crown jewel is Justice League. And it didn't just fail to hit $1 billion. That's not the story. The story isn't that it failed to hit $1 billion, although it should have hit $1 billion in its sleep, being the crown jewel of the franchise. But that's not the story. The story is the crown jewel of the franchise ends up being the worst performing box, that fewer people wanted to go see it than any other DCU film that was out. That's the story. So when you put things in perspective, that it wasn't just a Star Wars movie as if it was Episode 7 or Episode 8. It was a spin-off movie that nobody wanted. Still bad news, like incredibly bad news. That loses an ass ton of money, that Solo did. But that is not nearly as debilitating. Let's look at it the other way around. Let's flip it. Let's take a single standalone quote-unquote spin-off film from the DCU and a crown jewel movie from Star Wars. If the positions were flipped, right, and let's say Wonder Woman had lost money, which it didn't obviously, but I'm just saying, if Wonder Woman, a single standalone quote-unquote spin-off film, it's not a spin-off film, but it's a standalone film, let's say that lost money, and Star Wars The Force Awakens was the lowest grossing of any, not just some standalone, but Star Wars The Force Awakens, or Star Wars Last Jedi, whatever, ended up being the lowest grossing Star Wars film of all time. Then it becomes clear, the answer of which is more disappointing, and which is a bigger blow, is Star Wars The Last Jedi being the lowest grossing of Star Wars films. Yes, it would have been bad that Wonder Woman lost money, but it's not that big. I mean, it's still a big deal. It's still bad, but it's not as big of a deal because it's not like it was Justice League. However, the situations are reversed. It's Justice League that failed to get out of, or Justice League that ended up being the lowest grossing, and it was a solo standalone film that did horribly box office-wise. Clearly, the one that's the bigger blow to their respective franchise is Justice League, which is supposed to be your crown jewel film, should have sleptwalked to $1 billion. But again, the $1 billion mark isn't the story. If Justice League had made $900 million, it would have been fine because it would have been the #1 box office DCU film. Yeah, it didn't hit $1 billion, maybe it should have, but oh well, it made a lot of money and it's the biggest of the DCU films. Instead, it was the lowest grossing of the DCU film. So I think clearly, unless you have a really strong bias and unless you're trying to twist and spin it, it's really clear that the bigger blow to their respective franchise was the Justice League thing. Neither are good. Let's be clear about that. Neither are good. There is no winner in this situation, but I think the bigger blow was definitely the one to the DCEU. All right, Luna Comics writes, an example of a good movie with questionable moral is Thank You for Smoking. I don't know if that movie's got a questionable moral. I mean, I love Thank You for Smoking. I think that movie's wonderful. Jason Reitman directed it. Aaron Eckhart starring in it. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful film. And the moral of the movie was never people should smoke. But part of the movie was kind of pointing out the hypocrisy of the anti-smoking movement a little bit. Is smoking good? No, I don't smoke. I will never smoke. I'll never let my children smoke. All that kind of stuff. I get that. But I don't know if it had a bad moral. I think it was just looking at it from a certain point of view, from a certain character's point of view. So I don't know if the moral was either good or bad in Thank You for Smoking. That's just my way of looking at it. Maybe you look at it a little bit differently, and that's totally cool if that's the case. All right, Luna follows that up with, why haven't we gotten a zombies versus aliens movie? Come on, Hollywood. P.S. Not talking xenomorphs. Oh, no, because that would be ridiculous. Nobody would take it seriously. I mean, as funny as it is to say, if you do a zombie versus aliens movie, very few people are going to go see it. It would look ridiculous, and I don't think anybody would want to see it. I think it's one of those movies that sounds great in theory that you and a couple of buddies would like to see, but the average moviegoer is not going to go see that movie. So that's probably why no studio has ponied up the money to make an aliens versus zombies movie. But hey, man, never say never. Matthew Leach writes, film recommendation, Coralie Fargrate's Revenge. I sent this before, but I don't think you've seen it. No, I haven't seen it. I have not seen it. I haven't even looked it up, to be honest with you. Maybe I should look it up right now. Let me see here. Coralie Fargrate's Revenge. Okay, let's see here. What do we got? Well, it must be an R-rated film because there's a red band trailer. It doesn't have a great rating. The rating isn't so good on it. Oh, no, I'm looking at the wrong movie. I'm looking at just Revenge, the movie. Or is that the actual one? Oh, it's the actual one. Oh, okay. Oh, the name of the movie is Revenge. I thought you were saying the name of the movie was Coralie Fargate's Revenge. I thought you were saying that was the actual name of the movie. Okay. It doesn't have great reviews, and it doesn't have great ratings, but I'll watch the trailer later. I got the trailer loaded up on my page now. I'll check that out a little bit later. Thanks for reminding me about it, Matthew. ZOMG Ruler writes, think a Suicide Squad versus Justice League would make $1 billion? No. No reason to think so. Because you'd be assuming that everybody who saw Suicide Squad is completely different people from everybody who went to go see Justice League. And that if you make a Justice League versus Suicide Squad, then all of them will go to see it. When the fact of the matter is there's probably 90% overlap of people who saw Suicide Squad and Justice League. So no, I don't think there's any reason to believe. And by the way, they're going to do Suicide Squad 2 and it won't make as much money as the first Suicide Squad just because so many people didn't like the first Suicide Squad. I did. I had fun with it, but a lot of people didn't. So fine. So no, Justice, and first of all, that would be the dumbest idea for a movie ever because there's not one person in the Suicide Squad who can take on any single person in the Justice League. Aquaman by himself would wipe out the Suicide Squad. The Flash by himself would wipe out Suicide Squad. Wonder Woman by herself would wipe out Suicide Squad. Batman obviously already has taken out everybody in the Suicide Squad. Superman, while drinking tea and reading the funnies, will take out everybody in the Suicide Squad. That's like saying, okay, who wins? John Campea taking on Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier and Georges St. Pierre all together. It's laughable. It's completely laughable. I mean, I would be lucky if I even got both feet in the ring against any one of them. I mean, so that's kind of what it's like trying to have a Suicide Squad versus Justice League. It would just be no competition, and no, it wouldn't make $1 billion. No, it wouldn't. Kodwo Okosa Ama writes, It Follows or Unfriended, which was better, MV? I'm not sure what an MV is. As far as which is better between the two of them, I actually wasn't a big fan of It Follows. I know a lot of people were really like gangbusters for It Follows. I was a little late to the game with it. I watched it after everybody already raved about it. And I thought it was okay. At best. I thought it was okay. The premise was really creative. I liked the premise. But overall, I thought it was okay. Unfriended, not even remotely okay. So I'm going to go with It Follows. Let's see. The Mad Titan writes, my reaction to the new pickle slushie from Sonic. Never even heard of that. I hate pickles. My reaction to the new pickle from Sonic. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether they could, they didn't stop to think about whether they should. That reminds me of, oh my gosh, Patton Oswalt. Patton Oswalt, who's of course the voice of Remy in Ratatouille, and he's in a whole bunch of things too. Great comedian as well. I remember in one of his stand-up comedy things once, he's talking about science and some of the stupid things does, and he had that line, science, we're all about the coulda, not about the shoulda. It's a great line. So yes, science, always asking whether we could do something, never stopping to think if we should do something. Good movie line too. Joshua Howard writes, better opening credits, Spawn or Godzilla 98? I'll be honest with you, it's been so long since I've watched either of those movies. I cannot recall either of the opening credits from either of them. It was way too long ago that I saw either of those. And they're not exactly movies that I watch every year, you know what I'm saying? So it's been at least a decade since I've seen either of those films, and I cannot remember the opening credits, so I can't give you an opinion on that, unfortunately, Joshua. Sorry about that. Tacky75 writes, worst casting, Eisenberg as Lex Luthor or Bosworth as Lois? Oh, that's easy. Bosworth as Lois. The idea of what they were going for with the Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor is an idea that had merit. And I actually, look, there were cringe moments in a Batman versus Superman with Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, for sure. But I still think overall it was a neat idea. The Bosworth casting of Lois Lane was so wrong. It was just so brutally the wrong casting for that role. Understanding what the role was for Lex Luthor, Eisenberg was a good fit for it. Eisenberg didn't make up the Lex character. That's the Lex character they were going for. So they got Eisenberg, so he gave... The character that they were going for, Bosworth, and this is no insult on Bosworth it's at all, but she was just the wrong person and the wrong fit to play that character in that role. It was just a bad match. She did not fit the character that they were going for whatsoever. And to me, it's probably the biggest weakness, other than the fact that, you know, there's no action. That's probably the biggest weakness of Superman Returns. All right. D. Wathers writes, unboxing Pops with John Campea. Make it happen. No way. No. Now, what I talked about the other day is that I think I'm going to start doing like 1 or 2 videos a week. Just maybe even 3 or 4 videos a week. Just highlighting, like a 2 or 3 minute video, highlighting one of my collectibles, whether it's my painting or one of the toys or one of the trophies or one of the Pops or the Darth Vader, whatever, and just talk about it and why I like it and why it's there on my shelf. But that is not an unboxing. I'm not taking Pops out of the box. Not because I'm trying to preserve them, just I think they look better in the box. I think they're presented really nice in the box, so that's why I keep them in the box. Not because I don't want to get fingerprints on them or anything like that, not at all. It's just that I like them in the boxes, so I keep them in the boxes. So you won't be any unboxing, but I will probably highlight them a little bit. Okay, Technovine writes, Wonder Woman theme music gives me chills. Let's go part 2. Oh, I love that theme music. Like boom, 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 boom. It's a great theme. It is a great theme. I love that theme. I know some people that it really drives them crazy, but I think the theme is awesome. Gets your blood pumping. Razor's Edge Frisbee writes, in reference to my question about The Witch, John, Funko is releasing a Black Phillip goat pop. I'm not surprised. Actually, that would be a pop I would like to have. A Black Phillip pop is one I would like to have. I would. So thank you for letting me. I'm going to keep my eye open for that because that sounds pretty funny. Let's see. Therm Scissor Punch writes, happy anniversary to you and Ann. Thank you very much. It was mine and Ann's 8th wedding anniversary the other day. Did last week break any records for most trailers released? I think there was something like 17 trailers I dropped. It was crazy last week. The sheer number of trailers that dropped last week were crazy. It was like every day 2 or 3 marquee trailers dropped. It was nuts. Now, I haven't heard anything about there being any kind of a record set or anything like that. I'm sure there's a lot of trailers released every week. We don't always pay attention to them. But yeah, man, last week was nuts. Like if you're a fan of trailers, last week was a great week for you because they just, holy crap, it just felt like every 5 minutes new trailers were dropping. It was crazy. Bloodless Slim writes, fan of Superman, Wonder Woman ship. I feel like the only one. Are you talking about the slang the kiddies use, like ship as in you want to see Superman and Wonder Woman hook up? It worked a little bit in the New 52. It worked a bit in the New 52. Like, I'm a little bit more classic. To me, it's Superman and Lois Lane. Of course, there's Superman, Wonder Woman hook up in Injustice, Gods Among Us, New 52, and other incarnations as well. And it makes sense. It seems like the movie might have been, in the DCEU, it seemed like they were maybe moving for a Batman-Wonder Woman relationship. Who knows? But as far as on the big screen goes, I'm always going to be a Superman and Lois Lane kind of guy. I'm just going to be in Team Lois for that. Even though I don't hate the idea of Superman and Wonder Woman. Nothing replaces Lois Lane to me. So there's that. Let's see. Razor's Edge Frisbee writes, did you watch E3? No, I still haven't watched any of the E3 footage yet. Spider-Man, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima. I did see the 8-minute video for the Ghost of Tsushima. That looked crazy good. That one I saw. I mean, I've seen other stuff from Last of Us. I haven't seen the Spider-Man stuff yet. But oh my God, that Ghost of Tsushima stuff looked sick. Like, it looks so cinematic. So I know nothing about the game, and maybe the gameplay will be terrible. I don't know, but oh my God, it looked absolutely amazing. The combat in Spider-Man looks like Arkham on crack. I'll have to look at it. I still haven't looked at the Spider-Man one. Edgar Magana writes, majoring in business, a good way to get into film? Well, it depends. Like, what do you mean by getting into film? There's 1,000 different ways to get into film. Get into film as a caterer. Get into film as a makeup person, get into film as a producer, get into film as an actor, get into film as a production assistant, get into film as a writer, as a director, as a studio executive, I mean, it really all depends. So yes, I'm sure majoring in business would help open some avenues to getting into certain areas of the film business, sure. There's a lot of different ones that could do that, but yeah, majoring in business. Look, majoring in business opens the doors in a lot of different fields. But could it open some specific doors in the world of movies? Sure, I'm sure it would. So if you're kind of like a business-minded kind of guy, but you love movies, that might be the way for you to get into it. So sure. Jace Little writes, does Fox have to choose the higher bid? No. And remember, it's not Fox that's choosing. It's the shareholders of Fox. Fox as a company does not get to pick who buys them. The shareholders of the Fox company get to pick who's going to. Because I had somebody who's trying to argue with me the other day, John, they're still going to go with Disney because Rupert Murdoch wants to go with Disney. He's already said that. Rupert Murdoch doesn't get a say in it. Rupert Murdoch, it doesn't matter what Rupert Murdoch wants. This is what the shareholders want. And the shareholders get one bid from one company offering them $52 billion, and another offer comes in at $65 billion, they're going to go with the $65 billion bid because that gets them $13 billion more dollars. So it's not, so just be, I know we're playing semantics, but the little wording difference is key. Fox does not get to choose. It's the Fox shareholders. And do the Fox shareholders have to pick the bigger bid? No, but it's the same. If you're selling a baseball, some guy's offering you $20, some guy's offering you 30. Unless there's some real extreme circumstances, 9 times out of 10, you're going to go with the guy who's offering you 30 because you get 10 extra bucks. So no, there is no rule though that says the shareholders have to go with the higher bid. The only thing they have to be careful of, let's say right now the bidding war ended. Disney offered $52 million, Comcast offered $65, and Fox voted, and the shareholders voted to go with the Disney deal. That would probably raise a lot of eyebrows at the Department of Justice. It would probably raise a lot of eyebrows about tampering, antitrust, all that kind of stuff, because it would look funny. It would look funny. It's like, wait a minute, why did you go with a thing that was offering you $13 billion less? And it would probably cause an investigation and all that kind of stuff to see if there was collusion or tampering or things like that. But no, there is no rule that says they have to go with the higher bid. Now, let's say the Fox shareholders, they just like Disney a little more. And Comcast had an offer that was like $15 million, not billion, million, 15 million more than Disney's offer. Well, maybe the shareholders just like Disney a little bit more and they can do that. But if the difference is 13 billion, there has to be something wrong in the universe if you don't take that. That's obviously something is wrong. Something is out of place. In a free market, if you're offering something for sale, somebody offers you one amount and somebody else offers you $13 billion more, and you don't go with the offer $13 billion more, that looks suspicious. That looks fishy. So do they have to? No, but I can't imagine that, shareholders wouldn't go for it. I really don't. Razor's Edge Frisbee writes, also, when you get that PS4, buy Outlast and Outlast 2. They'll scare the piss out of you. I don't know. I've never had a video game scare me. The only time, and it's silly to say it, but it's true. The only time I felt creeped out by a video game was Five Nights at Freddy's. As silly and as ridiculous as that is, I was playing that game for the first time alone at night, laying in bed with the lights out, and I'm like, this is starting to creep me out a little bit. Like, it was really weird. No other video game in history has ever creeped me out even slightly. Five Nights at Freddy's actually creeped me out, which is really weird. All right, final email or a question today that gets us all caught up comes to us from Therm Scissor Punch again, who writes, if you had to pick Highlander TV show like Game of Thrones or Into the Badlands or movie trilogy, I'd love to have Mel Gibson direct a movie adaptation. Oh, movie. Nine, not always, but 9, maybe 8 times out of 10, I'll always pick the movie option. To me, I just prefer movies over television. There's great television out there. I love television. You hear me talk about television. But 9 times out of 10, I'll take a movie over a season of television. I just respect the art of movies more. Like when you got to tell your whole story, get us introduced to the characters, introduce the plot, do your conflict setup, then bring it all to resolution, and you got to do it all in 2 hours. Whereas TV series, they have, 9 episodes. You got 9 hours to no. Filmmakers do it all. What a season of television has to do 9, 10, 12 hours. Filmmakers got to do it in 2, roughly 2. And there's something about that I just find better. I mean, neither is better than the other. It's apples and oranges. They're different things for sure. But I will usually go with the movie option. So yes, I would absolutely take a Highlander new movie trilogy, as long as it doesn't suck, because they've almost all sucked except for the original. I would take that over a television series. But that's just me. I'm sure a whole ton of people would rather a TV series, which is totally fine too. All right, guys, that will do it for this installment of the Compainion video, getting you all caught up to date and everything going on. Thanks a lot for being here. Listen, guys, if you're here, if you haven't done so already, make sure you click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to my YouTube channel, and follow me on Twitter. If you're not already, why not? Follow me on Twitter. You can see my address right there, simply @JohnCampea. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks for being here. My name is John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.